Hello, everyone. Today we will be completing Lesson 8 in Booklet 7, that is classifying triangles by angles. Now, compared to the last lesson where we had different names for different triangles depending on their side lengths, this lesson is all about the angles. So that's different from the length of the sides. The angles of a triangle is the distance between your corners or within your corners, right? So each triangle has three angles, as we can see here in blue. And the larger the angle, anywhere from 0 degrees to 180 degrees, the larger the angle, right? So a really small angle might look something like this. This might be an angle of about 10 degrees versus a really wide angle, which might look something like this, right? This angle might be something like 150 degrees. So we use angles to measure how thin or how wide a corner is in our triangle. Now, let's take a closer look at the three different kinds of triangles you can have depending on the angles. We have a right angle triangle, and as the name describes, in order to be a right angle triangle, you need only one of your angles to be exactly 90 degrees. Now, on a triangle, we represent 90 degrees by putting this little box in the corner, right? So I didn't need to write 90. That box, in theory, is enough to say that this is a 90-degree angle, right? And that means that they are perpendicular. That means that they go from perfectly up and down to perfectly left and right. It's a perfect corner. You would see four of them in a square. Now, an acute angle is one where all of the angles are less than 90 degrees. Right? You can see here in this triangle, you have three angles. All of them are less than 90. If I was to give you an actual triangle, but poorly drawn, but we're going to use it nonetheless, I might say that this angle is 70 degrees, this angle is 50 degrees, and this angle is 60 degrees, right? All three of them are less than 90. This would be an acute triangle. Now, an obtuse triangle is when one angle is larger than 90 degrees. Exactly one. Now, it's actually impossible to have a triangle with more than one angle that's larger than 90 degrees. So if it's obtuse, it will only ever have exactly one. Right? Maybe your triangle looks like this. Maybe this angle right here is 100 degrees. This angle right here is 30 degrees. And this angle right here is 50 degrees. That would count as an obtuse triangle. Right? So that's the hard part of the lesson. Now you need to classify these triangles. I don't give you the angles, you just need to eyeball it, right? Now I'm looking at this first triangle, and it's looking obtuse, right? This angle right here, that looks pretty large. But is it larger than 90 degrees? Well, a 90-degree angle, remember, would be a perfect corner like this, kind of like we would have in a square. So yeah, it's pretty obvious here that our angle is larger than 90 degrees because it's that right angle and then more. So I'm just going to draw this, and I'm going to say greater than 90 degrees, meaning this is obtuse. Now, this triangle comparatively looks like an equilateral triangle. However, what we really care about is the angles inside, and I think it's pretty clear here that each of these is less than 90 degrees, right? A 90-degree angle would look like this, and it is smaller than 90 degrees. Now, I could say that about each of these angles. Each of them is less than what would be a 90 degree, meaning this is acute. Okay, this one doesn't require too much thinking. All I need is one angle that is exactly 90 to make this a right angle. And then finally, this one right here, it's a little tricky because these angles down here look like they're pretty wide. But again, if I take my time and I draw what 90 degrees would look like, we can see that these angles, although just barely, are in fact less than 90 degrees, right? So this would also count as an acute triangle. Right? So from here, you can get started on your homework. Remember that if you're ever struggling, you can always draw what 90 degrees would look like, and then you can see if that angle is more or less than 90 degrees. Okay, that's about it for this unit. After you're done this page, please let me know and I can get you the review. Thank you.